Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 167 podcast. In today's episode, we're speaking about having a devil kicking relationship, how we can secure and make our relationship safe and not vulnerable to attack. And really, what the 167 podcast is all about. There's 168 hours in the week. One of those is maybe spent in a church or in a house of worship, but you've got another hour, or you've got actually a lot more hours, 167 actually, to add value, to grow, to learn. So, in this episode and today's podcast, we want to try and help you do that in the context of relationships and speak a little bit about what we can do to have a strong relationship that isn't vulnerable to attack. And we're pumped to be back. It feels like it's been a little while.
It has been a minute.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. I've heard picking that up from Dino Chikatilo, who I know is definitely
and you know he's picked that up from some
British, Anyways. But it's good, yeah.
You were flying solo last week, actually.
I was flying solo last week. I felt a little bit lonely, if I'm honest. It felt weird just talking to a camera by myself.
No one to bounce off.
No one to bounce off. No one to chat about, chat with. But I know you were on holiday. How was holiday?
Holiday was good. It was very, very good. We were in Mossel Bay for a week with my wife and the in-laws, and we had a good time. Rested nicely. It's lovely on the beach. We did some walks. Not a whole lot.
So just hashtag relationship goals.
Just
really.
hashtag. If I just took photos of our long walks on the sunset, then we could just make that the thumbnail for today. But I didn't.
Good.
I just kept it personal, and I didn't want to make anybody feel bad.
No, I understand that, because I know what happens. Is you take us through these series because that's where you are in life, and so you're taking us through these relationship goals.
Sure.
Now. And now you want to learn, like, I need to be devil kicking, so let's do a devil kicking.
That's
episode.
exactly right. So it's got to work. It's got to work for us. And how's your week been at work? We're enjoying some good sport at the moment. Our teams are doing pretty well.
Good time to be it's good time to be a Red.
Yeah, it is.
So enjoying the football. A lot of good stuff happening at the church.
Yeah.
The church.
Yeah.
Good stuff happening here. We got a team our team is growing, increasing. We're making space.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
And we got a different set today.
A lot of big things coming up. Set today. Beautiful set. This set will be refreshed after this podcast for a youth and young adults conference.
It will be.
It will be that you're having. That's gonna be fantastic, and then build up towards another conference in June.
Yeah.
Pentecost. That's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah.
Man, it just feels like it's getting cold.
Yeah.
I don't know about how you feel, but I was cold.
I love the cold, and I'm sure, for everybody that's watching and joining us today, please continue to subscribe and like and add comments. You can even share on this. I just love winter, but I feel like that's it. Like, that's normally the response I get. I either get other fellow winter people, we dig the cold, because for me, I think winter clothes look cooler. I think when you're cold, you can always get warm.
Sure.
But when you're warm, there's only so much clothing you can take off without it becoming weird or inappropriate. So for me, I've just always enjoyed the winter. I like winter sports. For me, winter's always just been a good time, but I can already tell by your countenance that you're a summer man.
But you sleep better in winter because it's colder.
You do, under the blankets.
Winter is fine if you're warm.
Yeah.
Winter is not cool if you're cool.
Yeah.
If you're cold. It's just unpleasant. Because obviously in other parts of the country, other places in the world, when it's winter, it's not necessarily raining.
Yeah.
But in Cape Town, it's wet and it's cold at the same time. So I mean, if there was snow, whatever,
you could do less in the rain, and the rain, we always say, when it's raining, especially when it's church and stuff, rain evaporates Christians.
Yeah.
Apparently that's the saying.
You
just can't come out when it's raining.
No.
Rain does stop some activities. We get that, but I don't know. I just like being cooler.
It could be nice. I could sit in front of a nice warm fire.
Because you've got a nice fireplace.
Having a cup of coffee. I could definitely fall into that trap.
Totally.
Maybe we should do some fireplaces in the church.
And we walked through a church that had fireplaces. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that. That was very awkward. I would never do that.
That was crazy.
I would never do that.
That was crazy. No hates to anybody who has a church that has a fireplace in it, but that was crazy. I actually wouldn't know how that works.
In the lobby, I get it.
Yeah, lobby,
a nice
definitely.
Sealed or fireplace,
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Kids can't just run to it and grab it.
Yeah. And burn themselves.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally. Well, we're gonna get started, and geez, it's been a really cool couple of weeks.
I must apologize, because obviously sometimes there are weeks where we don't post.
Yes.
And that's just got to do with the schedule and timing and being away.
Yeah.
And then I I often get a phone call from someone who listens to our podcast, be like, "Hey,
Where is it?
what's happening?"
Well,
I'm
that's
listening to the podcast.
encouraging.
That's encouraging. We're helping and encouraging and lifting 3 or 4 people up. That's great.
I love that because we've started kind of a series of talks now talking about relationships, relationship goals,
Yeah.
and we had a great chat. It feels like a couple of weeks
Relationship
ago.
goals.
Goals.
Golds.
Oh, golds. There you go.
Golds.
The nuggets. That's it
Yeah.
right there. We had a chat a couple of weeks ago talking about, foundations. And then last week, you had a great, or it was last week actually.
Did you listen to it?
I did for a little bit, not the whole thing, but I just wanted to make sure it was rock solid.
You were
and
like,
it was.
yeah, I just want to, like it's an audit. You were auditing it. You never
No,
check the whole thing.
that's
You
not
just check
me.
the few points.
That's not me. I could see it from the get go. It was brilliant. So I'm like, I don't have to stay here. You chat about mission.
I do that
driven.
for our Sunday messages.
That's
I
it.
just scan through.
It looks okay.
Yeah.
Or does it look okay? Chat about mission-driven relationships, and today we're talking about having a devil-kicking relationship, and how we can do that in our dating lives, how we can do that in our marriages, and really just based on the idea and the truth that Satan is always going to try to come in and interfere with our relationships through temptations. He'll look for places where we're vulnerable, where we're weak. And what we want to try to do, even today, is just try to have some conversation about how we can almost future-proof our relationships a little bit. One of the scriptures that immediately stood out to me from the notes is 1 Peter 5:8, which talks about staying alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. And it's a hectic picture, looking for someone to devour. So I don't want to, by any means, say that getting into relationships is just a one-way ticket to getting chowed. But what is good to understand and to be aware of in your relationships is that there will be moments where you can be vulnerable to attack. And if there's things that we can put in place that can keep our relationship secure and safe, it's good to have conversations about that. And I think you can do it for people that are dating and for people that are married. There's many different ways to talk about it and to think about it.
Yeah, relationships are one of the most important components of our life. Now, we're not talking specifically into general relationships, because you got work relationships,
you got friendships,
you got all of that. We're speaking specifically into romantic relationships.
Correct.
And in a marriage context, as your relationship goes, so goes the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I find that when I have when our relationship isn't healthy, everything else around me is affected. And when it is healthy, I'm actually at my best.
Yeah.
And so we have to be on guard. And it's not like the devil's just looking to take out married people or single people who are in a relationship, romantic relationship. But that is one of the most significant relationships that we will ever have in life.
Yeah.
We have a relationship with God, that's the most important, but our relationship with our spouse, or the person that we hope might become our spouse, that's a very significant relationship. And if we're not careful and if we're not alert, the devil will drag us aside. We also get tempted, and I think it's about us being alert in healthy seasons and unhealthy seasons.
Yeah.
Because we will always go through all different kinds of seasons in our marriages or in our dating relationships. But how do we stay alert and not pull our guard down?
Yeah.
Or actually, maybe we actually need to have a guard up for the first time.
Yeah. I love that. And I think I want to jump to something, but I know I'm jumping the gun a little bit. But I think sometimes it's a lot easier to almost be having these types of conversations, putting guards up when things are going well, because you've got something you really want to protect. You've got something that you really like. This is so good. It's so loving. It's so joyful. Like, I want to make sure that there's nothing here that could potentially derail this. But it's in those seasons maybe, and why it's so good to do it in advance. It's in those seasons where things are maybe not always perfect. Everybody isn't always happy. It's not always going exactly how you wanted it to go. But that's never the moment where you jump ship. It's actually the moment where you got to buckle down, and you've got to actually see what you're made of, see what the relationship is made of. And it's understanding that beforehand, that in those good seasons and in the bad seasons, we want to be prepared, I think is the right word. So one of these cool conversation starters was like, if you knew that a thief was going to break into your house, what would you do in advance to make sure that would happen? And I think it's like, the first thing you do is like, well, I would make sure that I've got maybe some burglar bars, make sure that I've got a security gate or two, so that when they do get into my garden, they can't get into my house. And I think for our relationships as well, these types of conversations are so healthy to have. It's so that even if right now everything is perfect and brilliant and there's no thoughts of temptations, that we don't feel vulnerable, it's like there's potential for a thief to get into your garden one day.
Yeah.
Can we put the gates up? Can we put the burglar bars up so that we can be safe and protected from that?
Yeah, that's 100%. And it's not just that, your relationship is in a good or unhealthy place, right? You got to have the pre-deciding is saying, this is important to me before I get to an unhealthy place, or this is important to me before, even when we go through good times, or because we're always going to go through temptations, right? We're going to go through different periods of time where we're tempted in like there's sexual temptation, or there's a temptation to there's a disconnect, so there's a temptation to pull away and withdraw and to become quite isolated. There's temptations to overwork at the neglect of your marriages. So there's a lot of these things that can come, and so we have to pre-decide on some principles that are like putting up the security gates and the alarm system and the dogs as a pre-warning system. So what are those for your life? What are the guardrails that you say, this is the point where I don't cross this line, not because when I cross this line I've sinned or made a problem, but it's so that I don't fall off the cliff that's on the other side. Right. So it's like, okay, these are early warning systems to let me know when I'm going to be before I'm in trouble. And that's what we need to put into our relationships so that we can be devil kicking, because we have one enemy, and that's the devil. In fact, in Ephesians says that our enemy is not people, our enemy is spirits that govern this world. And so what we got to do is be aware of those things, that those aren't things that we naturally see with our eyes. We've got to be aware that there's an enemy. He doesn't want us to have healthy marriages. He doesn't want us to be blessed in life. And so he's going to make the most of every opportunity that we present to him. And no temptation takes you out in a moment. It's the little things, right? It's the little unchecked things that we haven't pre-decided in that take roots and cause problems.
Even some of the decisions, I think, could be a good place to start. The decisions that lead us maybe towards temptation, and then some of the decisions that lead us away. And I think for me, and if I can look at it in a whole, and so can you, and like in your dating life and in your married life, and especially if you're in church and you're a believer, you obviously want to do your dating life a certain way, and then you want to do your married life a certain way. And I think a great question is, what are the decisions that lead us close to temptation, or lead us further away? For me, whenever I felt myself close to temptation, it was always about, this isn't a sin, or it was always about, how close can I get? How close can I get to, like, hey, we're never going to do that. We're Christians. We're Christians. We'll never ever do that. Like let's not. But it's like, okay, if we never do that, how close can we get to it? How close can we? You talk about a cliff. How close can we get to the edge of that hill without actually falling off? And for me, it was a mindset that actually really kind of put me on the back foot in the beginning of our relationship. And I realized that it shouldn't be about how close we can get to something that isn't sin. That actually isn't the point. The point of trying to do our relationship that way was so that we can set up our marriage to be successful, and we can set up our futures to be successful. So as soon as I learned that it wasn't just about how close I could get, but more, let's just try to think about it in a different way. Let's try to approach it in a different way. If staying over at the house till 11 o'clock at night when everybody's sleeping, watching a movie under the blankets, is that sinful? No. But is it getting you closer to somewhere where you don't want to be? I think it is. So we almost made a decision later on, almost in the beginning and straight through, that I would, at Jean-Marie's house, I would often leave the house at about like 9 o'clock latest. And often when I was there, we would kind of just spend time with her family, because there's nothing sexually arousing about hanging out with your girlfriend's family, like watching Nuit for Nuit. So if we're gonna be real and vulnerable here, for me, like it was almost like I can almost start building relationships with the family, but I can just get myself a little bit further away from the cliff edge than often the decisions that lead you closer towards temptation. I don't know if it was the same for you, or you just holier off the bat.
Yeah, pretty much. It's very rare that it's a big thing that takes you out.
No.
Very often it's the small, unchecked attitudes. And if our attitude is about how far can I go to get away with it, what we're doing is we keep moving the barrier. We keep moving that boundary and to closer and closer to that cliff. Every
100%,
time our conscience gets a bit seared, or we're open to compromise, we just put it a little bit further away, so we can go further. Problem is that you're actually developing a habit of moving in a direction that's more about you and what you want. And let's be honest, a lot of sin feels good in the moment. Not
100%.
always, but a lot of sin feels good in the moment. So there's an internal motivation. But I want to say this, that temptation is not sin. Temptation happens to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone faces temptation.
Very good, yeah.
But what makes the difference is our relationship with God, our relationship with the significant other, and the pre-decisions that we have made. You know, where, like you're saying, leaving at a certain time, because that was just a time, beyond that time it was unwise.
Yeah.
So it's not about being right or wrong, it's about being wisdom. You know, fools will walk into all sorts of trouble.
Yeah.
But a wise person will look ahead and see what needs to be done for it to be healthy. And so even in marriage, you're going to get tempted into different things. But how do you respond when those temptations come up? That I think is where your strength is. Because it's not even your relationship being in an unhealthy place. It's just you. Like for me, it's worse when I'm tired.
100%.
Like when I'm tired, I've got no energy to fight. I've got no energy to fight the devil on certain things, right? So I have to pre-decide that there's stuff that I'm not going to do because I don't have the willpower to fight them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's so good. And I mean, I was thinking exactly along that line of thought. And I was just thinking about in dating and in marriage relationships when it's like, it's got there's a dual focus. It's you as a couple. It's you as the relationship, the strength. And then it's you as an individual. Both need to be healthy. And what I found, and I know this is not exactly what we're talking about today, but that's why, again, it's quite important that you've got two people really right from the beginning that are after the same thing, that want the same thing, that are looking for the same outcome from a dating and then into a marriage. Because there's going to be moments, like you said, when you're feeling weak, when you're feeling tired, when you've had the worst week. And like you said, you're more susceptible you just don't have the power to fight it off. And if you've got someone who's also still after the same goal, that when you're weak, you know, they can almost be like, okay, well, this is what we're after. This is what we want to have in our relationship. And they can almost keep us on track. They can keep you on track and vice versa. But if you're with someone who's got a different goal from the beginning, and it's always kind of a tension, it's always kind of like no, but this is what we need to do, and you've got to fight it. The moment that you're not on your game, the moment where you're feeling a bit weaker or more susceptible to attack, it's just going to happen because you haven't got this like double-pronged attack. So I think another decision that leads us away from temptation is actually being aligned in the relationship, being aligned in the marriage. That if there's certain things that you want as a couple, there's certain things that you want as a married couple, it's like, well, let's both be in agreement. Let's both communicate those things. Let's both talk about those things, that as a marriage, we want there to be complete openness, complete honesty. And if you have that, then there's also a way of keeping each other accountable, having somebody to talk to if things aren't going exactly the way that you wanted to. And that's what we've worked on. Communication, almost like in my marriage, almost started slowly and had to develop because of miscommunications and just assuming your partner knows something or thinks about something when they don't. And I think when it comes to temptation, when it comes to hectic moments or bad moments, or there's something that you're unhappy about, I think great communication between each other is really is a massive step towards away from temptation, and can really help you understand exactly where you're at in the relationship as well.
Yeah. It's I think great communication is a good key. Like being able to say, hey, I think you're not spending enough time at home. I think you're not, like, I think you're being a little bit grumpy lately. Like all of that helps you to go, oh, flip, yeah, you're right. I am actually overdoing it in certain areas.
Yeah.
Because we can only speak to ourselves in a sense that as guys, you can almost get tunnel vision and be like, no, this is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And you can forget some of the family responsibility or the time or dating your wife, whatever. You can forget about those things quite easily because you get into this, there's so much to do, we got to get what we need to do.
Yeah.
But just speaking to a moment to that dating couple, and you hit it so well, the greatest pain I've seen in marriages is when a married couple, one's a believer and one's not.
Yeah.
Like there's an internal pain that you can't, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't fix it. You can only pray. and that's a huge thing that you can do. But it still amazes me that some people will even consider dating a non-believer, because your starting point is a completely different place. Like if you want to pierce your life with many griefs and sorrows and sadness, date an unbeliever. Just put it out there. And you don't know if you're going to marry that person. How much baggage do you want to carry? Now, I'm not saying that people who have done things and are carrying baggage that there's no hope. There's absolutely hope. God's a healer. God's a restorer. But again, it comes back to us. Are we in our relationship, are we wanting to please and pursue God, pursue holiness? Or are we all about how much of what we want can we get? And I think when you're in a relationship, even maybe you're in a relationship with a Christian, and if their commitment to personal holiness isn't there, I would end the relationship. Because if they're not committed to that now, how do you know they're going to be committed to anything in the future in God? So they're willing to compromise at the first thing. I'm not saying someone who's, and I'm making mistakes. I'm talking about a Christian who sees no problems with sexual impurity. That's run. Bible teaches run, flee from sexual temptation. In fact, the Bible says when you're facing temptation generally, stand firm and rebuke the devil. But when it speaks about sexual temptation, it says get out of dodge, like just run as far as you can. So I think it's quite right. That's got to be a pre-decided barrier before you're in a relationship. These are the things we will do, and these are the things we won't do. And if that person doesn't align to that, wrong person.
Yeah, but the enemy's smart. Like he'll pick his moments. He'll pick 100%. His times when he'll attack and when he'll put something in your way, try to tempt, he'll wait for those moments when you're at your most kind of vulnerable state, most vulnerable position, maybe from you, and we can only really speak from experience as well. When do you find that you're most vulnerable to any sort of kind of spiritual attack? It could be, I know we're talking in the context of relationships, so that's super relevant, but when do you find yourself geez, it's in those moments where geez, I could be a target, I could really be hit here?
For me, it's when I'm tired, when I'm emotionally depleted. Those are the times that I find to be the difficult. And a lot of that is at the back of a great ministry output. Because when you're preaching or you're giving yourself in ministry, you're actually exhausted, but you're not physically exhausted. You're just depleted on the inside. And so it can be on the back of a great success, a big weekend, or anything like that. I find that I'm quite vulnerable afterwards. I'm vulnerable when my wife and I are not doing well. Like we're not in a healthy. We're not sharing intimate details. It's all surface level. I find that I'm quite vulnerable in moments like that. And there's great men and women of Scripture who were incredibly vulnerable and suffered and got depressed on the back of a great victory. Right, and so that's why those barriers are important. I find myself late at night is also moments of being quite vulnerable. The thing is, once you gain victory over areas, it becomes easier, you become stronger. But it takes a long time to get there. It's not like I got one success, now I'm strong again. No, it's got to become a habit so that you see the red flags or the alert signs before you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's so. I mean, I resonate with all of them, but the two in particular that for me, I'm straight off the bat, it's definitely tired.
Yeah.
And I agree, man. It's always after huge output where you can really feel geez, I could be in a bit of trouble here. And then also when if me and my wife if things aren't going exactly to plan, or like you said, we're in a weak spot, it's in those moments where I can feel geez, I'm maybe just slightly more open to something, or I give something previously that I gave no room to. I give it a little bit more room.
Open the door a little bit.
You just squeak it open, and in your head you can still kind of justify something. And we're going to talk a little bit about what those things could be and how to stop those. But in your head it's well, this in itself is not sinful, but it's just squeaking, and you don't need to give the enemy a lot of room. Hey,
no. The Bible says don't even give him a foothold.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you open the door, his foot is in there.
Yeah.
To keep the door open.
Yeah.
So you're right.
And that's all that he needs. That's all that he needs from us. And I love, you said it in the beginning of the episode as well. You said it's not one big thing that's going to derail you, because we're almost smart enough for the most part to be no, I'm not going to have an affair. No, I'm not going to like gamble everything away. Like these big gestures. It's like, no, I'll never do that. But it's the squeaking of the door. It's of those little moments, the footholds that you give the enemy, that then he can jump in and then over time can make something big, can make a problem of something.
Other vulnerabilities are insecurities that go undealt with.
Yeah, very
true. So we all have insecurities. We all carry them, but you got to deal with them. You can't let your insecurities rule your relationships.
Because what do you do with an insecurity? You immediately think that your spouse or the person that you're dating is thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And it makes you even more insecure.
It does. Yeah. 100%. And that can wreck you down the line because you're letting the devil speak into your insecurities. So that is one. Financial difficulty is a great place for vulnerability because now you're hyper stressed, you're worried. That's never a great place. Unforgiveness is a huge one where you have arguments and it's funny. You go, oh, we had arguments, but we don't even remember what we were arguing about. That's a funny one. But sometimes there's a hurt that doesn't get forgiven. That causes huge vulnerability for temptation. I'm not just talking about sexual temptation. I'm talking about derailing your marriage, like bringing isolation, bringing discontentment, bringing almost a hardness. Because those are all signs. For me, it's when I don't take enough leave, which is a problem. I struggle with taking leave. When I become I become like grumpy and cross, and or when I don't sleep. All those things that come together, and when they hit together at the same time, it's a perfect storm.
It is.
And so we got to put those guardrails up to deal with those. But I think I don't know if there's any practical things that we can.
Yeah, I was even just thinking along those lines. Just being aware of the moments where you can be weak is I think it's half the battle. One, to be honest, because I think if you can know, oh geez, we're struggling a bit financially, this usually means that we both get a bit tense, we both get a bit stressed, and that usually can lead to something else. Or maybe we're doing a lot. It's a busy season. We're both involved in a lot. We're both tired. We're not spending a lot of time. This could potentially be a season where just having that awareness, I think, is half the battle. One, and then understanding what are one or two or three things that we can do that can help us for us and in my relationship. It's so good for us we can often go about doing life and not be intentional with just putting in, and I'm not talking about big, extravagant, huge date nights every second night, otherwise we're unhealthy. Definitely not. But you can go a few weeks without having kind of these moments where it's just talking and there's no agenda, there's no like, hey, we've got to solve this, we've got to get this done, this bill needs to get paid. Just having those intentional moments, and for us that's often been a great help for us in fighting spiritual attack and fighting kind of a vulnerability to that, because we just re-strengthen something that should actually be a source of your marriage, in my opinion, and like you mentioned, it should be a stronghold. It should be a source of strength for you. You work from a strong marriage and it overflows into the different areas of your life. So it almost makes sense for us to, in moments where we're possibly weak, well, let's give strength back to where the strength needs to be. Let's be intentional again about speaking, about chatting, about laughing, about enjoying the things that marriage brings, and having that. And I use the word intentional because it feels way more natural sometimes to be swept up in the busyness of life. And then you've actually got to just, hey, can we actually this Friday night, let's go get a meal and chat and hang out. For me, that's been helpful.
That's very good. I think when you first get married, you don't know what you need to do about intentionality. Then you begin to learn each other so well that you're like, okay, if we don't do this, this leads to bad places. And then you get to a point in your marriage where you're like, oh, this is a lot of effort. And so you got to be careful for all of that. And what are some of the things maybe you can share that you take care that you guys try and guard your marriage to be devil kicking, right? To not give him, when he was trying to put his foot in the door, you kick his foot out the door, kind of thing. What are some things that you guys do?
Yeah, for us, I mean, it's a really good question. I think we're continuing to learn lessons along the way. I think myself and Jean-Marie try our best to be very respectful of each other's feelings. In the beginning, like, if somebody were to bring something up, hey, this is how I feel, I'd almost kind of like, Like, I don't care how these are the facts. But when you get into a marriage, like someone's feelings, they can't control. They're just feeling them, and whether it be completely rational, that can be spoken about later on. But it's good to acknowledge feelings. And my point that I'm trying to make here, and how we try to do this, I try to make sure that Jean-Marie feels heard, and I think she tries to make sure that I feel heard. And from that place, then we're able to then make decisions as a couple that can help protect. So if I'm doing something that is making Jean-Marie feel insecure, or making Jean-Marie feel uncomfortable, or whatever the deal is in the context of our marriage, or in the context of my actions outside of our marriage, I've got to make sure that I'm hearing that. And even if, because we think differently as well. So even if I think like, that's so illogical, like what an irrational thought, like why would you think that? Like, I'm doing this and this is why I'm doing it. But it's always good to make sure that there is a good line of, and I mentioned it before, but just making sure people are heard, and that feelings are heard, and that you can almost speak into that. And for me, it might be about doing one or two things that maybe other married couples don't do. But if it works for you guys, and if it gives you guys a sense of, okay, well, it gives that, and again, I'm not bordering on the line of doing things that are just completely weird, but if it works for you guys and it gives you guys a sense of security in your marriage, I would go about and do that. So for us, it's always been about having kind of open lines of communication. And I think for me personally, I mean, I work with people, I work with females, there's leaders and all of that stuff. So, and I think Jean-Marie naturally has a pretty strong sense of security. I don't often hear her having issues, but if there was an issue and I met with somebody and she felt uncomfortable with it, I've always tried to hear that. She sometimes gets feelings about people, and I try to just be like, no, I don't know, like they seem nice. Like, but if your wife has a feeling about somebody, I normally just try to go with that feeling and say, cool, I hear you. So we try to have that dynamic where if she shares something, and I just try to hear her and try to apply it. Yeah.
No, that sounds really good.
I don't know if Laura's the same, but
it's so funny. Like, I wonder what Jean-Marie would say in response to what you've all just said now.
I don't know. Hopefully she would agree. But it's so funny though. She'll definitely, like, I don't know if there's any other like wives or girlfriends out there, but it's like if she just has these feelings, and I've just got to like, okay, I just trust it's the Holy Spirit talking to you.
No, but even if it's not,
yeah,
that's where you got to go. I'm protecting something that's more important to me than another relationship.
Yeah.
And you can deal with the tensions later.
Yeah.
But you've got to honor and respect.
Yeah.
There's an insecurity or whatever, and sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. I find very often that if a woman has that, guys are very clueless, and we actually need our spouses to be like, there's a bit of a red light there. Like, let's just be honest. But yeah, I think it's.
And we also try to just inside of the home, and even with the small kind of task, like if you guys aren't on the same page, like if we aren't on the same page, and that can affect, like you're saying, it can affect just the general nature of the relationship, where things can become quite surface level, where you aren't sharing those intimate details anymore, where you might be going to bed and it just feels like things aren't exactly how they should be. We just try to limit that. Like, you don't want to live in that for too long. Like, I think in all marriages there can be moments where there's tension, there can be moments where there's things out of your control, and you've got to work through that. We try our best to not live in that for too long. Like either myself or her, I naturally tend to speak about things quicker, but my personality is that I'm more like a rhino, so I don't like waiting. I'll go for it, and I'll start talking about it even if the person isn't ready yet, and I've had to learn that that's not always the way to go about it. But it's often me that will say, hey, like, let's chat, like, let's talk about this. Obviously things aren't, we obviously aren't, this isn't what we want, this isn't how we want to live, like, let's talk about that. And I think sometimes just for the sake of like peace, or you just don't want to fight anymore, you can let yourself live in a subpar, like sub-level marriage. Like, we don't want to be in those places for too long. I understand it happens, but we try to, if it's been a day or two, we try to then have a conversation and just try to get back.
Yeah. If you find it difficult to talk to your spouse about anything meaningful or what you're going through, you're in a bad place.
Yeah.
I'm not talking, for me, Lara and I, words are so valuable to us. They're important to us, the way that they're used. So it's not, and there's also some stuff that we don't feel like we need to share with one another, because why create unnecessary insecurity in another person? Right, so there's some things we feel like we don't have to share with each other. There's parts of our lives that are still private, because we are pretty private people, Um, so, but if you can't share intimate details or have an intimate conversation or something like that, your relationship, there's a problem. I'm telling you there's a problem.
Yeah.
Because you don't trust each other.
Yeah.
Because in trust is where there's intimacy. And so if you're not, as a married couple, if you're not sleeping, if you're not having sex, you're you're in an unhealthy place.
Yeah.
I don't want to put down a number.
Yeah.
But
everyone's different. But
everyone's different. But if it's not regular,
yeah,
like I would go as far as say weekly. If it's less than weekly, I think you need to have an honest conversation.
Yeah.
And if you're not married, you stop it. You shouldn't be. You're not test driving marriage.
You should not have a healthy sex life.
When you go test drive a car that you want to go buy at the shop,
yeah,
right? They let you drive it.
They
right?
do, yeah.
Around the block.
Yeah,
they don't let you take it to your home to park in the garage to dismantle it to figure out if this is the right car or not, and then put it back together, drive it back to the showroom.
Yeah.
They don't let you do that.
Yeah.
They don't let you get intimate with the car.
Yeah.
They just let you drive around the corner to see if this is a car you can see
Get
yourself
intimate
driving
with the
into
car.
the future, right?
Totally.
So same thing with your marriage. You're not trying every facet of the relationship to see if it's a good fit for you.
There's some things you'll learn in the dating aspects of the marriage, but it's not everything.
No,
you're not married yet.
So exactly. So stop it. I don't know where I was going with that, but that was just a stop it.
No, I agree. I think that's good. And I think maybe even just a question for you, for people that are maybe earlier on in their married life, just with some of the things that maybe you and Laura put in place today after, a million years of being married together. And obviously it's not a million, it's just been pretty long. If you could look back right at the beginning, and it's probably things that you've learned, what would be one or two things, like a brand new married couple or very freshly married are coming and they come to you on this topic saying, we want to make sure that we're protecting our marriage, we want to make sure that we're protecting ourselves, we don't want to be vulnerable all the time, we want to limit temptation. What's one or two things that maybe you guys have learned or have implemented or have put in place, even if it sounds crazy, but it's actually helped you guys, practically has helped you guys? What would those be, even if it's just one?
I would say
I can think of one that you do already, but I'll let you.
What is that?
The car driving thing.
The car driving thing. What's the car driving thing?
Where you won't drive a car or have meetings. I think Maxwell also talks about that actually.
Yeah, there's a few people.
So it's not a crazy one, but I mean it's just off my head. I've seen you do that.
Yeah, I've driven past staff ladies that are walking to church in the rain.
Midnight.
And because that's a good time to anyway, driving past and I think they at some point they got quite upset. But the reality is I'm not taking women in my cars. There's no way that's going to happen unless there's another guy in the car. I don't have private meetings with women. If there's a meeting that I'm having with a staff member, the door's open, there's people around, whatever, that kind of thing. I don't. Yeah. So we've and I know that Lara wants that and respects that.
Do you think some people look at that and are like, that's overkill?
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't care.
Okay, cool.
Because my marriage is more important to me than what other people think. And I can understand even in a work context, I've heard this conversation of, but then you're not giving the same amount of attention to like maybe female employees as you are to male employees. And the truth is, you're probably right. But again, I'm sorry if that's not the way it's meant. Yes. What's meant is I need to protect what's most important to me.
That's good.
So there will be other ways that we try to figure that out and try to give more in other ways. And so, anyway, that being aside, I think some things in the early days is listen faster to your wife and listen faster to the needs of your husband. Because sometimes you think, they're being silly, but you haven't figured out that that's a real place of vulnerability for them. And so rather go slower. I heard this, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you want a healthy relationship, be willing to go slow at the pace. Because you can only go at the pace of your spouse. No matter what you want to do in life, no matter what thing you want to do for God, no matter what thing you want to do in a business, you can only go at the pace of your spouse. And so if your spouse is lagging behind, surrender what you're chasing and make sure that relationship is healthy. Because then it's smooth, and smooth becomes fast, and it can fast track it in the future. So take better care of the needs of what they're asking for. Learn to communicate earlier when there's problems. Things like be careful how you speak. Like again, for Lara and I, words are so important. So some people, words aren't important. They'll say whatever. But I'm astonished at how some people talk about their spouses. I'm like, oh my goodness, like, what are you telling yourself? Yeah. What are you prophesying? What are you speaking into life here? Yeah. By the way you're speaking about this person. Yeah. So don't speak any negative words about your spouse in front of other people.
That's good. Protect them. Yeah.
Protect them. Depending on where you are in life, stay off the internet after 10 p.m. Don't watch movies with age restrictions. Just even though they're culturally relevant and cool, like stay away from it, because it's you're painting a picture on your mind that one day you would like that to be fulfilled. Let's be honest. Yeah. Social media, I think, is a tricky place as well. So I think it's just about, and for us, we don't do date night. We just can't do date night in our season. We're getting to a place where we can do date breakfast maybe. Nice. But yeah, that is going to be nice. I look forward to that. But in the meantime, what we do is that we do our coffee times every day, and that just makes sure that there's an intentional,
I like that,
intimate connect.
In every season, there's a way. Hey,
there is a way.
There's a way to do that, because obviously when you got small kids and all of that stuff, time is precious, and often it's allocated elsewhere. But I love that. I love how, like, hey, we can't do that right now, but it doesn't mean we're going to do nothing. We're going to make a way to communicate, and I think that's always. I think that's a great heart, even as we wrap up today's conversation. It's just, if you want to be a devil-kicking relationship, it's a couple that always finds a way to win on an intimate level, to win relationally, to chat, to communicate, to speak about things, and then to understand that there is an enemy. There is someone who wants. There's a lion. Scripture says a lion that prowls, wanting to devour. But we can be made aware, and we can put things up today. That even if today we're not vulnerable, a day will come where we are, and we can have the gate, we can have the burglar bars, we can put the things in place.
I think it's so good, because here's the risk for those listening. The risk is, if you don't have a devil-kicking relationship, the devil's going to kick you in your relationship. There's going to become a devil's playground, and there's going to be a huge hurt and breakdown that's going to affect every other area of your life, including spiritually. And so your marriage relationship, you have to, a stronger relationship goal, the strength of your marriage will become out of the place of how healthy and how strong your defense is against the attacks of the enemy, against the attacks and the temptations that come in. Because if you don't do that, your relationship will be weaker. It will be more stressful. It will be an unhappy place, and you just carry that around everywhere that you go. I actually think for Lara and I, that by God's grace, honestly, only by His grace, that our marriage is in a strong and healthy place for many, many years, and that's why we are able to do certain things at a higher level than what we were before, is because our marriage is in a stronger place. Yeah. All of those other things.
Yeah, I love that. Well, this has been really cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this conversation, and I really hope that it's been helpful. We're sorry if we haven't been as consistent. We're going to find our rhythms, and we're going to get everything going again, but we hope this conversation has been helpful to you. Again,